My name is Christoph Jörg, and I'm a producer in Paris. So it all started in ZDF with a guy named Eckhard Stein. And Eckhard Stein he was the first who gave Jim Jarmusch a job. His first film, Permanent Vacation, he did it with ZDF, so as an American director. Suddenly he asked me to come to his office. He asked me, you speak French, you know Paris, you want to do documentaries, so would you like to work with me on this thing called ARTE? I said, yes, why not? I mean, the idea to start a new channel and all of this was very exciting for everyone, and no one knew exactly what to do. We were all like, we had meetings, we had a budget, we knew that we were working on films, but we had no idea what this channel is. I remember we had this conversation in April, and then we had to broadcast in December. So we had 6 months to make programs and to start something and to start a channel, which was completely nuts. No one had actually a clue what kind of programs we should do. So it was up to us to come up with a plan. So we had internal meetings at ZDF, and then we all went always to Strasbourg every 2 months. We all spoke English with each other because no one spoke the other one's language. That was really strange. Also for a TV channel, broadcasting in German and French. So we had all our program meetings in English. And when we talk about these programs, they were all 4 hours long because someone had the idea, I think it was Eckhard Stein at the time, that we should do thematic evenings, the soirée thématique. So we go around the table. We had 30 ideas. All these 30 ideas ended up in the program. So that is something that, from a today's perspective, no one would ever do that. We were 5 people, and we were all very young, and we just ended up, doing probably 30 to 40 of these evenings a year. And that was a lot. And each evening had a huge budget, and we had to deal with everything from acquisition to production to, doing the little transitioning programs and all of that. And it was really fun. Yeah, that's how I became a commissioning editor at the age of 27. I traveled constantly to London to meet people from the BBC, from Channel 4, and I traveled around the world on festivals, and I met a lot of people, and I looked at other programs. I went a lot to the United States. For me, it was a fantastic learning period as well. Yeah, that formed me in a way because I was suddenly confronted to a lot of new ideas and a lot of new programs, and that inspired me. What ARTE had in the beginning was just it was a channel I don't know, like YouTube. I mean, you just could put on whatever you wanted on it. I mean, we were the gatekeepers, the commissioning editors, but we didn't really feel like gatekeepers. We felt more like, okay, oh, this is such a great program. We have to bring it on the channel, whatever it is. When I started my company, it was a very it was a very painful moment for me to switch because you just lose the red carpet treatment as a commissioning editor. You're not invited anymore to festivals. You're not you're not in the center anymore. You don't give talks and stuff like that. I suddenly was on the other side and very vulnerable. I wanted to be a producer because I wanted to prove myself that I can resolve problems, that I can manage these things. I can make a film. I can deliver a film. I can, you come up with an idea. You create something with this idea. You develop an idea. You make the film. You deliver it. I mean, this is something that and despite the fact that this is the worst industry in the world because it's not a nice and sweet and gentle industry. It took me nearly 10 years to get to a point where I'm actually comfortable to be a producer. I try to talk to directors that I really like, and I try to convince them to work with me. I come up with subjects, and I have to choose subjects, that are not subjects where people would immediately think about. A good story is when you have enough layers, to make a film about. If it's something that is not black and white, it's just like so, where there is a lot of potential, that suddenly, makes it possible to make a film. I don't know if there is any rule for that. It's just like, I mean, I think with experience, you know what a good story is, but I can't really tell you. There's no recipe for it. The more authentic you are as a filmmaker or a producer or whoever works in this business, the better it is. You have to find in this whole ocean of distraction and whatever access to everything, you have to find your own way. You have to find your own authentic way. We need to be storytellers. I mean, if I pitch a project, I want to tell you a story, and I want to tell you a story that you are fascinated about. And then I want to tell you the story in a way that you want to have dinner with me. So and you want to hear more about the project. And if that happens, then I know I have a commission. So, and this is something that I always, for me, it's like the most important rule in this business. When you pitch something, you need to be on top of your subject 100%. And it's even better if you can pitch it to someone who knows already like a little bit about your subject. But you make this person curious and you tell this person a story and that they will not forget. And then, yeah, they want to see you again. All the films I have been involved as a producer, I really liked them. There were films that are really important films, like the one we did on Ingrid Betancourt when she got released from the jungle in Colombia. And we had her for an interview for like 3 days in a private house somewhere in Connecticut, where we interviewed her in French, in Spanish, in English, and we had like, she broke out in tears. She told us her story. It was just like such a great moment. For me, it was one of the most important things I did, because it was just 2 years after I became actually a producer. And then other films like the one I did with Pascal Lamsche on Winnie Mandela was a really important film, because for the first time, that was a film that it was broadcast around the world. We had like 30, 40 broadcasters. It had huge impact in South Africa. It went to Sundance. It won in Sundance. There were so many films around Nelson Mandela, and everyone was talking about Nelson Mandela, but no one actually really talked about Winnie. And then when this is an idea of the director, we had, I think, 3 dinners in a row in the same week where she was talking about Winnie Mandela. And I was like, this is great. This is so fantastic. I mean, we should do this film. Then you start thinking about it, who is interested in that? And then, you have to find the right people, and the right broadcaster. And we did it the very old-fashioned old way. So I went first to the people I know at ARTE. I think ARTE France said no. ARTE Germany said no. ARTE Strasbourg, for some reason, said yes. So we built on that. We went then to see other people, and we pitched it in Amsterdam at ITFA. Other people came in. And slowly, we built something. And then we had a rough cut and we got selected. And for Sundance, I remember that it was in November and Sundance was end of January. We needed at least another 5 weeks of editing, and we needed post-production. And, and then the film should be out, what the premiere was like, kind of 2 months later. We did all that. I raised money in no time to finish the film. And that was, you asked me what was the moment, what that changed me as a producer and gave me confidence to be a producer. I think it was exactly that film, because these 2 months, they were completely crazy to find the money, to do the right film, to go to the premiere. We nearly brought the film there, to Sundance. we all came from different towns and just met there and for the premiere. And then there was the premiere, and that was the film. And it was an amazing moment. So that film was broadcast, yeah, nearly everywhere in the world, from Australia to the US to nearly every country in Europe was co-producing it. People related to this project because it was about a very powerful woman, and she transformed. She was, the woman in the shadow of Nelson Mandela. And this film talked to people a lot. And then came a year later, the broadcast in South Africa. The first day it came out was a huge success for them. So they put it on the next day again, and then they put it on the next day again, and the next day, and the next day. Like for a whole week, there was like Winnie Mandela week, it was the same film. And then it became a newspaper thing, journalists picked it up, and they were questioning, they were suddenly questioning Nelson Mandela and questioning this. And then a huge fight broke out, between, you know, people they actually were in Winnie's camp and not in Winnie's camp. It was just so good to see that a film has some impact, and that is something that we rarely have, With One Child Nation, it had also an impact in a way because, that's the film about the one-child policy and the consequences of the one-child policy in China. So when the film came out, and there were two things that were actually really funny. Suddenly, this film was on every social media in China for like 24 hours, and then they took it away. They took it away from WeChat. They took it away from everything, and we're like, this is interesting. There were like lots of reactions to the film, but it disappeared. So of course it was a disturbing film, and the authorities in China just, they didn't want this film to be out. So for us, it was a success because we were like, oh, this film, he hits a nerve. When the film was actually on the list of the 15, no, what is it, the nominees for the Oscars? Yeah. And then, so suddenly there were like 15 films on the list. And then in China, there were only 14 films on the list. So, of course, they took out completely One Child Nation. And that was also something that we said, like, it's bad that no one can see the film in China. But on the other hand, it's just like it's actually a good sign, that this film has that kind of, reaction, because it's important, it matters. I don't know if there is a real difference in the mindset between the US and Europe. The big difference is that you have to convince private investors in the United States to make your films. As a producer, it's something that I really love, is to go out and meet people in festivals or in the United States. Especially Sundance is or Toronto is a perfect place for that. You just you try to get a private meeting, you meet them in their hotels, and then you talk about your projects, and you understand it's the same thing that you do with broadcasters. You have to create a relationship. You can talk to a lot of private investors and bring them together around a project, and then you have the money to do the film, which is great, and you can combine that with the system that we have more in Europe, which is to go to your local broadcaster that you know for several years and try to convince him or her to do your next project. As a producer, you have to be aware that you're in a business where sands are shifting all the time. I mean, it's just like you're never on a stable. It's never a stable situation for you. So you have to adapt a lot to whatever is going on in this business. We're living in a time of constant distraction, constant you have access to everything. Everyone is like, distracted all the time by a lot of things. And whatever you do as a producer, you come up with a one little film and you want the attention of, a lot of people for it. It doesn't really work like that, So you have to be aware that something that you want to do can be a huge failure. You have to adapt to new territories. You have to be open to new things. That's the way you are creative. You always have to find the right balance between the risk that you're taking, the financial risk that you're taking, and to make the best film possible with your director. They mostly don't care about money, so you have to find that risk, and you have to make also the people happy that are actually financing your film. So as a producer, you're constantly in that thing, and you're also constantly in that environment of where everything is changing. I mean, technical things are changing. The broadcasters are changing, the financiers are changing. Now it's everything about global streamers. Okay, you have to adapt to that, and you can't stick to your old system, or you stick to your old system, but you need to have a plan. You always have to look in the future. You have to know, is my business sustainable in 5 years? If you don't have that thought, I think you shouldn't be a producer. The things that are actually really important as a producer is like to have, you have to know it's not about you. It's just like, it's about the team you create around you. And one of the most important things as a producer is to find the right people you want to work with. And once you have that, I guess then it's easier to deal with failures. But at the end, every film is a new baby, and you care about that baby. Once the film is finished, I don't care about the film anymore. That's really interesting. So I'm not the kind of producer who is like growing with the baby. Once the baby is there, I want to have another one. So and I don't really go on with the I'm not going to festivals with the film, and I'm not, the whole social media thing. There are other people that can do that. But for me, what really drives me is the fact that I want immediately have another baby. My advice is like, stay positive and open to everything that happens to you, and try to avoid disasters. That's probably the best advice I can give.